Well, I have 8:02. I'm getting a few messages of people who are running late. I suspect they can join us. Amy, it is awesome. Thanks for popping on here. So what I'd love to do first, we've got a relatively small group. It looks like, according to my count, there's 8 of us on the video tonight. This is pretty cool for me. This is the first time I've done this. Not the first time I've led an introduction. I've done that probably hundreds of times now, but first time I've done it in this context of a YouTube live broadcast. So thanks, guys, for coming with us and trying this out. So hopefully, fingers crossed, no technical difficulties, and we can get through the next hour in one piece. So what I'd like to do first is I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself. I'd like to share my story, how I got into meditation, what it's done for me, how it's changed and shaped my life, and hopefully share a bit of what that experience was like. And hopefully that does 2 things. I'm hoping it first gives you a sense of hope, right? I was a mess when I started meditating in 2007, right? And I'm a pretty happy guy today, right? So talk a little bit about that journey, and hopefully it's one that you can identify with and lets you know if this is a path that might be helpful for you. And second, I also mean it as a means of introduction, so you can get a sense of who I am, and if I'm somebody that you want to take some instruction with. Right? There's no credentials. I have a master's in education. I'm working on a doctorate, but that doesn't mean anything in this space, right? I'm not a monk. I'm not an enlightened teacher. There's no Buddhist credentials out there for me to show you some nice framed diploma somehow validates this. So really, by giving you a chance to hear a little bit about my story, you can decide just how much stock you want to put in the things I have to say today. So while I'm doing my introduction, one of the things I'd love to do, since we've got the chat going, it seems like we have a manageable number of people on the video today, I'd love if you could introduce yourself in the chat. If you want to share your name, where in the country you're from, if you're comfortable with that. This is public. Remember, so you might want to be a little careful with your private information, but if you're, for example, I'm out here in Suffolk County in Long Island, I think is fairly innocuous. But I'd really particularly love to hear why you've chosen meditation. Why is it on a Wednesday night in the middle of the work week you decide to take an hour out of your time to stop and engage in this space with us? And that'll be helpful for me because I'd like to make sure I, over the course of this next hour, address what you need to hear and make this as useful of a time as possible for you. But I also think it'll be helpful because the Zen Happiness Project really is a community, right? We've got thousands of members in our Facebook group now, but hundreds of us participate in these challenges, and dozens of us participate in the weekly phone calls, our meditation sessions, and I'd love to get a chance to get to know you and to for you to get to know the other people in the Zen Happiness Project community. So it looks like we are successfully streaming here. Okay, so like I said, I'll do a little introduction. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'll introduce the meditation practice. I'll start off with 2 things that meditation is not. Then we'll go through the 3 basic components of Zen meditation: the body, the breath, and the mind. Right? We'll walk through that. We'll check in. We'll see how we're doing on time. We might do a little bit of a guided meditation at that point if we have enough time. I'll answer any questions along the way. Please just use the chat box that you have in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Again, there is a 30-second delay, so it takes me a little while to address your questions. It's not because I'm ignoring them. It's just that there is that 30-second delay. Yeah, and then maybe we'll do the close-up is I'll reflect a little bit on what really sparked this session for today is this is for the particularly for people who are participating in the 10-day minimalism challenge. So instead of closing with habit formation, maybe today I'll close with a little bit of a reflection on minimalism and why meditation is really important to that, how this starts our 10-day progress or path to living a little bit more simply. Oh, look at that. Phoenix, excellent. Amy, thank you. Love seeing the introductions popping up there. So, my name is Anthony Sonera, and I currently live in Suffolk County, Long Island. I work at Stony Brook University. I'm a professional higher education fundraiser. And in 2007, I always feel a little bit like I've made an infomercial out of my life here, right? But in 2007, I graduated college, got married, started my first professional job, and bought a condo, all in the course of about 3 months. And I had long struggled with depression. I had, ever since I was a freshman in high school, I had been seeing a therapist and really benefited from the antidepressants that I was prescribed and the relationship that I have with a psychiatrist. But in 2007, I was in my mid-20s, and all of this life happened kind of at once, right? And I experienced my first panic attack. And anxiety became a really essential part of my life. I got a very cool job in fundraising. I had a director's title right out of school, a lot of responsibility, whole new way of life, being a married person, and all of the obligations that come along with owning a home and launching into life at once. So the panic attacks were scary at first, but they really forced me to address kind of some of the chaos in my life. At that particular point, I was drinking too much. I was gaining a lot of weight. My job, I was on the road a lot. I was taking donors out to meals. I was eating out constantly. The woman I was married to at the time and I definitely were seeking happiness in all the wrong places. We were spending our money crazily. We were going on vacations that, even though we made good money, we couldn't afford. It was not a very satisfying life. It was very self-centered, and life was tough. So these panic attacks forced the issue. I started seeing a therapist, and she recommended I check out meditation. And I was lucky enough, I have a friend that we call Tom the Buddhist, and I went with Tom to a Sunday night meditation group that was led by a yoga instructor, and she did a half-an-hour guided meditation. And that Sunday night was the first time that I felt like I could breathe, and I had to be 6 or 9 months. It was like somebody had taken a 20-pound backpack off of my shoulders, right? I aspired to meditate daily, but for the next couple of months, I meditated once or twice a week, and sometimes 3 times a week. And usually that was around, I joined 2 meditation groups, a Sunday group and a Tuesday night meditation group. And we go and meditate with those folks and talk about meditation, and started going on some meditation retreats. And it really wasn't until 2008 that I started meditating every day. And that's when my life really changed. I started to see the benefits of getting in touch with this quiet, stable, still place that we all have available to us, that's sort of at the center of our experience on a daily basis, and the benefits that that could bring about. In 2009, I joined Zen Mountain Monastery, became a student there, took lifelong vows, and I started working with a teacher. I'm going retreats regularly there, and I maintain a relationship with that monastery to this day. In 2011, I moved to Scranton, Pennsylvania. And moving to Scranton was wonderful. I had a good job and a great opportunity to go work at a university out there. The problem was, for me, I was leaving these meditation groups. And as I just said, there were many weeks when I was first starting to meditate that I only meditated on the days that I went and sat with my friends at the meditation group. So I was looking for new people to meditate with. So I started introducing some new friends to meditation in Scranton, and I started falling in love with being able to see the benefits of a meditation practice take hold in someone else's life. I think that's when I started doing meditation instruction. In 2011, we started a couple of meditation groups in Scranton, and a few of us would get together regularly. It was a lot of fun. That lined up with I was getting a master's in education, and I started doing some research. I got very interested in this question of, I've been teaching a lot of people meditation practice, and we're going to talk about the instruction in just a couple minutes. And what you'll see is it's really simple, right? We could put this on a bumper sticker, right? I close my eyes, I get into a good position, I turn my attention to my breath, I let go of thoughts, I get centered and still, right? Fairly simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a simple instruction. And I would meet people and I would introduce them. We'd do this whole little half an hour, 45-minute introduction to meditation, and people would be excited. We'd do a little guided meditation. They'd feel great. And they would go off, and 2 or 3 weeks later, I would touch base with them and say, how's it going? And, would discover that they hadn't meditated once. So I got very taken with this idea of habit formation, of motivation, commitment devices. And so I did my research experiment and my research for my master's in education, really focusing on habit formation for new meditators. And I learned a lot through that process. And I won't work too much of that into this session tonight, but that is something we talk a good bit about the Zen Happiness blog and in our groups, is how to establish and maintain a daily meditation practice. In 2013, I was leaving Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I had loved making new friends in Pennsylvania, and I wasn't sure where I was going to be going, so I started the Zen Happiness Project online so I could create that same kind of community and find some other practitioners wherever it was I was going to end up. And I did end up in Long Island, but was lucky enough to come with all of the friends that I made on the Zen Happiness Project. Over the last year and a half, more than 120 people have gone through a 21-day program. I think we've done 200 people have gone through the monthly or bi-monthly beginner's instruction. We've had thousands of people have participated in our challenges where we do short little periods dedicated around the theme. So we just had a Little Less March Madness challenge. We're doing a May Minimalism challenge right now. And these are great ways for us to come together as a community and really dedicate ourselves to our practice and get to talk about it and experience it and put a little concentrated effort together. So I think that's enough about me. I just want to take a quick look through the comments here. We got Mandy in Washington, that's great. Phoenix in Southern Ontario, welcome. Amy in Michigan, how are you? Trying to combat stress. Ooh, the negative nature of your job. I can relate with that. I'm in a tough political environment right now, Amy, and I talk about that a lot with my friends who I go to for advice. That's certainly something that some awareness and some of that calmness that comes from meditating regularly will help with. Robin from Texas, I've been meditating and I'm on a journey of self-awareness and self-improvement. That's awesome. Robin, thank you. I didn't sort of finish my little infomercial adequately here. There is something really wonderful that happened once I started meditating that I wasn't expecting. I came to practice because I was stressed out. It was an anxious mess, right? But what I found was personal and emotional growth. Right? I have a spiritual life now, which for a guy who is still a little questioning on if there is or isn't a God, I have a robust and really meaningful spiritual life, which I value. It sounds a little absurd, and I have to talk about this. I think this is a challenge all in and of itself. I lost 50 pounds because I started to meditate. So meditation is a really awesome sort of foundational tool to any self-improvement process. It gives you a lot of awareness. I think self-awareness is the starting point, right? You can't run a business if you don't know what's in the inventory, if you don't know what the market is, right? You need this intelligence and awareness of reality, right? It's the same thing with our lives, right? We have to understand ourselves and what's really happening in between our ears, and meditation gives us very powerful tools to do that. Michael is in Maine. A little bit of meditation helps calm the mind, stay focused. Michael, I've got that ADHD thing going on, and I don't take any of the medications for it. I try to avoid them, and I absolutely can see the difference on the days that I meditate, right? And I think this particular form of meditation that we're going to talk about, Zen meditation today, is a great one for people who struggle with concentration and focus, because this is a breath awareness concentration practice, right? So when we're doing Zen meditation, we're going to decide that we're going to place our attention on our breath somewhere in our body. And when distracting thoughts come in, we're going to let go of those thoughts and return to our breath. We're going to train our mind to be placed exactly where we want it to be, right? So it takes practice, it takes years to develop, but focus, absolutely, we're going to get that. Oh, Teresa, how are you, my friend from the discussion group? That's excellent. Mandy, looking to bring simplicity into her life. Oh, Roxanne, hello, Roxanne. Nice to have you on the call here. Phoenix, yes, we'll do a whole challenge sometime this summer on losing weight. That'll be great. Excellent. Roxanne is also doing meditation to reduce stress. She has a ton of it right now. I think understanding a little bit about your job, Roxanne, I can relate to that. I'm 5 weeks out to the end of my fiscal year here. So I have deep sympathy for that. So great. This was very helpful. I'll check in. I'll keep checking in on the comments. Thank you, guys, and feel free to add your thoughts or ask questions as we go along. It'll certainly be beneficial. I'm waving back, Roxanne. Thanks. There is, for anybody who just joined us, there is a 30-second delay between seeing the chat and when the video comes. So if you're asking a question and I'm not responding right away, I will get around to it. So I think that's enough of an introduction, right? I like meditation. It's great. I was an anxious mess. I'm a joyful, happy person who wears things like this T-shirt now. It says, life is always full. It's good. So I would like to start tonight's introduction with two thoughts. They're two negatives. It's two things that meditation is not. And these are hard. These are hard. These are things that even after 7, 8 years of practicing, I still struggle with this concept. The first is meditation, especially this kind of meditation, Zen meditation, Zazen, is not a form of escape. Right? We're not running away from our lives. We're not disappearing. We're not going to be magically enlightened. We're not going to disappear. Our problems are not going to get erased, right? This is not some alternative form of some healthy way of getting high, right? Meditation can at times be blissful, it can be serene, it can be deeply comforting, but it can also be challenging. And the kind of practice that we're developing, committing ourselves to here in a Zen practice, really is about being fully and completely present to our life, about being awake to each and every single moment. So if we're committing to do that, there is no room for escape. So on a day like today, I sat down and I meditated. I just came back from a beautiful 6-day vacation with friends down in South Carolina and Savannah. Had a blissful time. And I was starting to get that anxiety. I knew there were hundreds of emails waiting for me at work. We've got all this end-of-year pressure. I knew all of that stuff was coming. And so when I sat and meditated in my morning meditation, what I had was work anxiety, the to-do list, that feeling like I need to be productive, I need to go. That was just what was coming up and what I was working with this morning. So our meditation is not an escape, right? It's also not a place that we withdraw from life, right? Our goal is not to arrive in meditation cushion, right? This really is a meditation practice. And I love that we call this a practice, right? Because meditation practice, the word practice begs the question, what are we practicing for? And how I answer that question right now, what that means for me is what I'm practicing for when I'm meditating. What I'm practicing for is how I want to live my life, right? I want to be completely present. I don't want to be narrating or distracted by my internal thoughts. I want to fully and completely experience my life, right? I don't want to be fantasizing about the future or reliving the past. I want to live in this moment because it's the only place that my life happens. You know, I have a new girlfriend. She's also a meditator, and she's got a pretty serious yoga practice. And we were talking about this idea of meditation practice. I giving my best spiel about, you know, meditation practice is me practicing to live an authentic and meaningful life, a fully present life. And she listened to it, and she said, that's very nice. And she said, you know, Gabrielle was saying, she liked the word practice because for her it meant that it wasn't going to be perfect. It was an invitation to try this again and again, for it to be messy, for it to not be perfect, for it to be more important that she shows up and does the work, not that she achieves or meets any expectations. I love that reflection, and that sort of segues very nicely into the second point I'd like to open up with here, that meditation is not no thinking, right? So we're not going to escape when we're meditating, and we're not going to have an absence of thought, right? This is a very important lesson. I talk with a lot of beginners who come back to me after 2 or 3 weeks and they say, oh, I've been meditating for 15 minutes every single day. I think I'm going to give up. I just can't stop thinking, right? Brains think. Brains think. In the same way that our ears hear and our eyes see, our brains think. It's in its very nature. So we need to set a reasonable expectation for what's going to happen in the 5, 10, or 15 minutes that we set aside for our daily meditation practice. I'll talk about this a little bit at the end about what's a good starting point, but I really want to encourage you to set manageable goals if you're new to meditating in terms of what your daily meditation is. But you know, I'll interject a little story here. I think this might capture it a little bit about setting the expectations. I was on a meditation group about 2 months ago, and it was mostly young people. We were, you know, in 20s and 30s, a few people in their 40s, and we had one gentleman in his 80s. And this group was kind of cool. We sat around in a circle, meditated for about 20 minutes together, and then somebody started with a topic, and we went around. There were about a dozen of us, and talked to that topic. When it got around to our friend Bob, this wise 80-plus-year-old who's been meditating for ages, Bob said, oh, that was wonderful meditation. I went from 60,000 thoughts a minute down to 15,000 thoughts a minute. Right? And I love that. That really captures it, right? So we're learning to turn the volume down on thoughts here. We're learning to slow thoughts down. We're learning to let go of thoughts, to disengage with them, to not identify with them. But we are not, especially in a short daily meditation, going to experience something that resembles no thinking, right? So this is going to be about how we work with thoughts, how we engage with them, how we separate ourselves a little bit from them. And through that, we do see a decrease, a lessening in thoughts. But we're not going to, in our daily meditation, see no thoughts. So those are my first two things. So what meditation is not, right? Meditation is not an escape, right? This is calling us to fully and completely, authentically experience our life. And second, meditation is not no thinking. Let's check in with the questions here. Bob in Portland, awesome. We're glad you're here. We're going to talk about simplifying our life a little bit at the end. That's great, Phoenix. I identify with that. Wonderful. Ooh, yes, Robin. Amen. I think we can all relate to that. That is spot on. It's a very, part of why I love that this happens, this meditation stuff, that we usually have a conversation, that we do this on conference calls when we meet on Sundays and Tuesdays at 8:30 on Sundays and 8 p.m. On Tuesdays Eastern time. I love this conversation. I love that it's amongst friends in the community because it's very intimate, right? The stuff we're working with when we're meditating is our life. It's our thoughts, it's our feelings, it's our memories, it's our experience, it's our perception. Right? It's all of that stuff. And to be able to talk about that honestly requires trust and a safe place. And it's a little hard in a YouTube conversation, but you're already seeing a little bit of that as people are sharing why they're here. So yes, absolutely, we face ourselves, we learn from ourselves in this practice. And we observe thoughts without judgment, hopefully, right? You cannot be a meditator for long and survive if you don't develop a baseline of acceptance, right? My brain does not focus the way I want it to. Some mornings I'm lucky enough that I wake up early and I have some time. I'll meditate up for 2 hours before I run off to work. And I'm probably still and quiet and in the place that I imagine that I should be for a handful of minutes out of that period of time. And if I couldn't accept the fact that my mind is scattered, that I go to anxious thoughts, that I deal with bouncing around, if I didn't have some acceptance, some non-judgment around that, I wouldn't be able to return to this practice over and over. So acceptance is really important and something we learn through committing to the daily practice, but it's really, really valuable to highlight. Teresa, that's a wonderful comment. I would hope so. We could do a whole session on fear. That's absolutely, there's a lot there. I hope we would realize how strong we are. I like that. I deal with a lot of anxiety right now at work. I'm only 14 months into this new job, and it's much more challenging. It's the same line of work, but it's much more challenging than my last 2 positions. And I find myself doing a lot of seeing the fear, noting the fear, accepting it, not reacting to it, and then responding to it with some positive affirmations. And I really find that to be incredibly valuable. So thank you. Yeah, there's some wonderful books out there on fear and a whole nother wonderful topic. So I'm going to jump into the actual instruction, right? So I said a lot about what meditation is not, and hopefully through that you're able to glean a little bit of a sense of what meditation is, right? And first off, we're practicing Zen meditation. It's called Zazen, spelled Z-A-Z-E-N. And this is probably the simplest form of meditation out there. It's by no means easy, but definitely simple. It's the same practice that's been being practiced in the Zen lineage for nearly 1,000 years. It comes directly, it's descended in, you can trace the lineage of it back directly to the original teachings of the Buddha 2,500 years ago. We model everything that we do in this practice off the meditation practice of Siddhartha that led up to his enlightenment. Zazen is breath awareness practice. It's a concentration practice. We're going to focus here. We're going to use a very simple setup of really focusing on our posture to support nice, natural, healthy breathing. And we're going to focus on that breath, and we're going to very simply count our breaths as a tool for helping keep us on track, keep us focused where we want our mind to be. Yeah, I won't say any more about that. We'll just start with the instructions. So we're going to talk about 3 things today. We're going to talk about our body, we're going to talk about our breath, and we're going to talk about our mind. And I think one of the things that surprises people at this juncture is I'm going to talk more about the body and our posture than anything else. The breath happens very naturally, and the instructions for what we're doing with our mind is pretty straightforward and simple, and really just needs to be practiced. But it's our posture that requires a lot of attention, and I hope in a couple of minutes that'll make sense as to why. So the first prerequisite, if what we're trying to do is create a still mind, if we're trying to create some focus, if we're trying to experience stillness, if we want a still mind, a prerequisite for that is a still body. Anybody here who has a yoga practice or any other kind of body practice, body work, has a very direct experience of the mind-body connection, right? I'd say after a number of years of meditating now that I'm uncomfortable even with calling it a mind-body connection, right? Because it implies a dualism or a split that I don't believe is there, right? We know this very intuitively, right? We know that, for example, if I'm hungry, I'll get into a cranky mood. Or if I think something's depressing, I have a reaction, I have a physical reaction of tears, right? We have all of these direct connections back and forth. Anger, my fists clench and my body tightens. If I get a good massage, my body comes at ease and I feel better emotionally and physically, right? So there's this great mind-body connection here. And so if we want to be able to focus very intently and on a really fixed point, we want to eliminate distractions as much as possible. And one of the primary distractions we're going to try to remove is the disruption that comes from physical movement, right? So the way we do that, that we create stillness without creating discomfort, is by paying real good attention to our posture. So if you know how to sit in full or half lotus or Burmese, or if you use a Seiza bench or any of those instructions, I'm not going to talk about those now because that implies that you have some level of expertise and you understand where to start there for yourself. So I give this instruction. I'm realizing, I normally do this on the phone, and I set up here on my couch for the purpose of this video stream, and I'm realizing I'm about to say, don't use a couch like this. So, I may as well start with some instruction about what to do if you are using a couch like this. So I give this instruction really imagining first that you're sitting on a chair. So a kitchen table chair, something firm, something flat on the ground is best. I love a padded folding chair, I think is the absolute best. We're looking for something stable. And the reason you don't really want a couch like this is, you see what happens to me when I lean back this, right? I've created a very poor posture. My stomach is sticking out. There's a lot of pressure on my chest here. My neck is not aligned well. I'll be able to sit comfortably like this for a few seconds, but I'll have very restricted breathing up in my lungs. And eventually, if I'm really trying to be still for more than a few minutes at a time, I will become uncomfortable. So if I'm using a chair like a seat like this, I'm gonna pull up to the front of the couch. I'm sitting cross-legged here. I'm gonna put my feet flat on the ground, my legs straight in front of me, and you can see I'm supporting. Oh, Robin, great question. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm supporting myself from this couch. The one addition you might make if you have a weak back like I do is I've just folded up a little pillow here and I put it along the small of my back, right? We tend to have lower back issues just as human beings, right? We've got this whole awkward, we haven't quite evolved to stand yet. So creating a little bit of that curve to your lower lumbar by tilting your hips forward. If you don't have a lot of strength in that area, you can support that with a small pillow. You can see, right, I've already gotten to a pretty natural upright position just by supporting my lower back. My lungs are no longer being compressed by putting any pressure behind me by leaning into the chair. So Robin, to address Robin's question, Robin asks, why does my physical body sort of rebel during meditation? Never ever felt so many itches, twitches, and such. Is this normal? Absolutely, 100%. One of the great lessons that many of us are confronted with when we start to meditate is, oh my gosh, I have to do something. It feels like we're going to jump out of our skin. And I don't want to answer that question for you as to what drives you and motivates you to feel that a desire to go, to move, that urge to run, to be productive. So I guess I won't comment too much on what I think are my internal motivators to that. Some of it's societal, some of it's cultural, and it's tied up in capitalism and productivity and everything else. But the other thing we notice right away is just how much is going on in our body, right? When we go into the instruction, we start talking about the sensation of the breath. One of the things we realize is, oh my gosh, there's all this amazing stuff happening in my body. If I stop and I'm still right now, I feel the cool sensation of air rushing in across the tip of my nose and warm sensation of air rushing out. Just for 1 second, experience that. That's amazing. That's happening 24/7. There's the sensation of air moving in and out of your body. And yet, like so much of our life, we miss it because we're lost, trapped in circular, anxious thoughts in our own head. So Robin, when you sit and you're still, you start noticing twitching muscles and anxious tightness and an itch and a scratch and that feeling like you have to go, right? That is, that's constant. Our whole body is, it's like vibrating with energy. And when we run around, when we don't have mental stillness, it's like our whole body is jumbled up. So this practice, especially those of us who are lucky enough to be able to meditate first thing in the morning, sort of setting the tone of how we're going to enter into the day, is really radical because A, you notice that there's all this anxious energy, all this stuff going on. But B, you've started to interject some of the solution. You're slowing down. You're noticing. You're inviting your body to be still, to relax, to settle in, right? And so just by introducing awareness, we start curing so much of the problem. And we start living and experiencing our life, right? So I only made brief reference to this earlier, I'll wait until I get to the instruction of the breath because I talk about exactly this, about how important being present is. But hopefully, Robin, that answered your question. So yes, your body is rebelling because your body is just used to be going. A lot of people, when they first meditate, they discover that they fall asleep very quickly. They're 2 minutes into their meditation, they're starting to nod off. And I think there's two reasons for that. The first is many people, we learn a lot of things about ourselves when we're meditating. Sometimes we learn really obvious things, like we're exhausted. But then there's the second thing, I think a little more related to your question, Robin, where meditation is usually the first time in our life where, other than when we're about to go to sleep, that we're completely still. So if you're never still, and then suddenly you're sitting still trying to be mindful with your eyes a little bit mostly closed and you're following your breath, your body goes, oh, I know what we're doing. We're going to sleep. It releases all that dopamine and melatonin and all that stuff when we pass out, right? So yes, okay, I've talked too long about that. That's my ADHD going. So we've got our posture here. We're going to sit with our feet flat on the ground, our legs at a 90-degree angle. We're going to support ourselves away from the back of whatever chair we're in. We're looking for something stable here. If we have trouble supporting our own back, we can put a small pillow in the small of our back to give us that nice little lower lumbar support. We're going to try to stay nice and true in center, right? Our body just sort of intuitively knows where that is, but we can rock a little bit forward and backwards to help us find the center. We can rock a little left to right. Really important that we find a good balanced place, because our spine is this amazing machine that we could be absolutely perfectly still for half an hour and not even flinch and not create any tightness in any of our muscles through our chest, back, and torso, through our core, if we've really attended to placing our posture where it should be, right? And you know, we're looking to, in our meditation, create awakeness, presence, but not tension, not anxiety, right? So very important that we have a healthy and balanced spine. John Kabat-Zinn is one of my favorite meditation instructors. He wrote Wherever You Go, There You Are. He's responsible for the mindfulness-based stress reduction program that is getting popularized here in the States. He has a ton of videos on YouTube that are worth checking out. I heard him give an instruction once. He asked meditators to embody nobility or to embody integrity. And I love, love, love that, because you can, nobility, your shoulders open up, your spine elongates, there's like a buoyancy to it, right? Something radiant almost. Lightness, right? To nobility, integrity, that's great. So many of us, especially people like me, I sit at the computer all day, I sit and I hunch like this, right? In our meditation practice, we're going to open our shoulders up. We're going to try to create nice, natural, open breathing. That can be tough. You know, I do a number of stretches really to help open up my chest, because I find a lot of tightness through there that radiates from my chest. A little bit of advice with our chin here. We tend to, we have a tendency of sticking our chin out when we're sitting and meditating. We're just going to tuck our chin in just a little bit, not much, but just a touch. It'll lower our nose a little bit. We're going to be looking at the floor with sort of a soft view, 2 or 3 feet in front of us, a soft gaze. And tucking our chin in reduces the tension that happens right at the base of the skull here, right? We want to have that nice healthy spine all the way right up through the top of our head here. We're going to keep our mouth closed in Zen meditation. We're going to breathe in and out through our nose. One of the helpful tips I've gotten in the past is you can just press your tongue lightly against the roof of your mouth, and that'll reduce the need to salivate, right? We're trying to be still, and that even extends to trying not to swallow too much during our meditation. We're going to breathe in and out through our nose. And we're going to leave our eyes about 3/4 of the way closed. You know, we're going to ever so softly gaze on the floor 2 or 3 feet in front of us. And we're going to let the upper eyelids hang closed, but we're not going to put a lot of effort bringing our lower eyelids up. And the reason for this is we're trying to strike a balance, right? We want to close out most of the visual stimulation, but we want to let a little bit of light in so that we, A, don't fall asleep too easily, and B, that we stay connected to reality here, right? Closing our eyes, it can be all the way, it can be very easy to start to be distracted, kind of drift off. Also, it has a weird, it's a little bit of a weird sensation keeping your eyes mostly closed, but a little softly open. But what you discover after a while is actually it requires the least amount of strain and effort in the muscles around your eyes. So the only thing I didn't touch on is what we're going to do with our hands. In Zen meditation, we form the cosmic mudra, and we rest it in our lap. And hopefully that helps support our nice open chest here. The cosmic mudra is formed by, I'm a righty, so my right hand, my dominant hand flat, we put our palm up. We rest our other hand on top of that. You can see I have lined up my fingers here. And we reach our thumbs around to create sort of a beautiful oval if you're looking at the front of us. And that's the cosmic mudra. I'm sure if you've seen statues of the Buddha, you've probably seen this position replicated in a lot of places. This would be a great, I'm just finishing up talking about posture, and I'll move on to breath and mind, which will be much shorter instructions, but this is a great time if you have any questions about posture to throw it in there. So, just to review real quick, we're going to sit with our feet flat on the ground, legs at a 90-degree angle. We're going to tilt our hips just a little bit forward. We're going to try to get that nice curve to our lower lumbar. Nice straight spine. We can rock side to side, forward and back to help find our center. Open chest. Tuck our chin in just a little bit. Breathe in and out through our nose. Eyes mostly closed, a little bit open, a soft gaze of the floor 2 or 3 feet in front of us. And our hands in the cosmic mudra, resting in our lap, pressed up against our stomach and hara, our lower belly. So I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll wait and see if there are any questions. Actually, you know, I did also say I was going to take questions by email, so I'm just going to check to see if we got any Zen Happiness Project emails here. Oops, we got a few people who are having trouble logging in. Okay, no questions. Good. So, that's our body, right? We have a body. It's challenging. You will learn so much just from experiencing and seeing how your posture develops over time and really working with that, right? There's a lot to be learned there. So the second thing we will talk about here is what we're focusing on, which is our breath, right? In Zen meditation, it's a concentration practice. It's a form of breath awareness practice, right? So we're going to use breath as the anchor to our meditation here. If we have good posture, nice healthy spine, open chest, it should feel as though our breathing is nice, deep, slow, and we can feel extend all the way down to our lower abdomen. In Japanese, the word is hara, H-A-R-A. It literally means lower abdomen. It's the point about 2 inches or so beneath your belly button. It's the physical center of your body. Right? If we've got good, healthy posture, if we're nice and relaxed and we're breathing, we feel our lungs expand, our diaphragm push down. You can feel breath all the way down into your lower belly. Right? You know, there's a lot that could be said about the breath, right? And I'll try not to talk too much about it here, but I'll say this. The breath is completely and totally present, right? I don't spend any time thinking about breaths I had yesterday. I'm not too worried about the breaths I'm going to take in a couple of minutes, right? I just breathe this breath. I breathe one breath at a time. I take it in, I experience it, and I let it go. There's no clinging. There's no attachment, right? So much of our life is missed because we're worrying about the future or reliving the past. Right? Just being right here in the present moment alleviates 90% of our mental anxiety just by letting go of reliving old hurts or worrying. Right? So this idea of being connected to the present is incredibly beneficial to reducing our stress, but it's really very beneficial to actually fully and authentically living our life, right? Why? Because our life happens right here in the moment. So breath is also soothing, it's calming, it's rhythmic, right? It's incredibly natural. It happens without any mental exertion, right? I don't need to sit here and figure out a math equation to take the next breath. It just happens, right? We're breathing when we're sleeping, we're breathing when we're talking, right? We don't need to control our breath. This is not a deep breathing exercise in Zazen. We're just going to simply breathe in and breathe out. You know, and I'll say one sort of whimsical thing about breath. There's something, just this vital life source that we have really also connects us to the totality of the rest of the universe. It's a very positive reminder how interconnected we are to other people, all living beings, and Mother Earth, the whole of the universe, right? This very breath that I'm taking right now, I need it, right? I I can go days without food, a couple days without water. I can go minutes without air, right? Where does this air come from? You know, the trees, I still don't understand how they do it, right? I took biology in high school. I don't understand the photosynthesis, right? But carbon dioxide that we breathe out gets rinsed and recycled and becomes the air that we breathe, right? So we're connected to the environment. For those trees to grow, I need somebody to have planted them. I need there to be rain in the skies. I need there to be sun that we revolve around. I need the whole of the universe to exist to be able to breathe this one breath. Right? This breath connects me to the whole of the universe, right? So there's something wonderful about using breath as our anchor to our practice here. Great time to jump in if you have any questions about breathing. I hope you don't have too many questions about breathing, right? This is something in theory you've been doing for a little while. You know, third and finally is what are we doing with our mind? So we've got this nice still body. We're got nice natural deep breathing. We're breathing in through our nose, out through our nose. We're being completely still. So what are we going to do with our head? Right? In Zen meditation and Zazen, we start by counting our breath. And I want to set a very important tone. This is not kindergarten meditation. You're looking to graduate from counting the breath, right? I've been counting my breath for years. Many of us meditators who practice Zen spend the majority of our time working on counting the breath. I do find that after a little while, if I'm meditating for a longer stretch, an hour or two at a time, I won't need counting as much to stay focused on my breath, but especially if I'm only meditating for 5 or 10 minutes and as a morning practice to get my day started. I'm just counting breaths, right? So this is just a simple tool, a device. It's not somehow remedial. It's not first grade Zen and you're waiting to graduate, right? But when we're counting our breath, what we're doing here is using a very simple tool to let us know if we've gotten off track. So when I sit still and I start focusing on my breath, I can pick a number of points where I'm going to focus. I find it easiest to focus on our breath down in hara, on our lower abdomen. There's something very, I think, helpful about removing our awareness and attention from our head and placing it down into the center of our body. It's very grounding. So, you know, as I'm noting the breath here, I count in breath 1, exhale, count 2, inhale, I note 3, exhale, note 4, right? Very simple process, just counting each breath in, out, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to the count of 10. When I get to 10, I let go of the counting, I start back over again at 1. Right? So what inevitably happens? I breathe in, I note 1. I exhale, I note 2. I breathe in, I note 3. Little voice says, gosh, it's a little warm in here. You know, maybe I shouldn't have worn 2 layers of a t-shirt. I should turn the air conditioning on. Oh, the electric bill is going to go up. Blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, I'm off fantasizing about how I'm going to pay next month's electric bill and what that's going to be, rather than being present to where I am. So what the counting does, it helps me realize, I've gotten off track here. I let go of that thought, almost as if mid-sentence, right? And I just return fully and completely to the experience of counting the breath. If you want, you can pick up the counting right where you left off, or you can start back at 1 again, right? Breathe in, count 1, exhale, count 2, breathe in, count 3, exhale, count 4, so on and so forth. So I haven't heard from anybody in the chat in a little while. I'd love to hear if there are any questions. It's 9 o'clock, so, or just about, it's 4 minutes to 9. So I gave the outlines there of the meditation practice. I said in the email it was going to be a 60-minute instruction. So what I'd like to do is just take a minute to talk a little bit about how this plays into minimalism and helps. Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. Just want to talk a little bit about minimalism and this sort of path of simplicity and sort of simplifying our life. And then that'll be a good exit point for anybody who wants to jump off because they've got obligations to attend to, they can. For anybody who wants to stay after that, I'll do a little 15, 20-minute guided meditation to conclude the session. So to talk about minimalism, wow, how to do this shortly. I'm writing all of the emails right now for the 10-day challenge, and oh, we got a little question here from Robin that I want to address real quick to extend the length of the breaths. That's a great question. So this is not a breathing exercise. We're not trying to control our breath. There's actually this great lesson to be learned from just simply observing and not controlling the breath, right? Because one of those weird things about paying attention to your breath is it's like we take it off autopilot and we start steering it, right? And it's weird because we breathe very naturally all the time, but once we start paying attention to it, it's like it becomes an exercise, right? So I'm really going to encourage you to disengage from controlling it and really try to observe it. And some days you're going to have shallow breaths, and some days you're going to have wonderful deep breaths, and sometimes, you know, you just don't know. The breathing will slow down just naturally by coming to a still point, resting, about reducing physical movement. So your body will naturally just slow down a little bit. It will need less oxygen conversion, what I'm sure there's a technical word for that, right? So your heartbeat will slow down, your blood pressure will drop a little bit when you're meditating, and consequently your breathing will slow down as well too. I just wouldn't force that, right? Your body knows what it needs better than your conscious mind can decide. So yeah, I wouldn't put effort into controlling the breath. So happy to stop if there are any more questions in there about the practice. But just to talk a little bit about minimalism. Meditation for me is like decluttering my brain, right? I just, Robin, that's great. You can see my little 30-second delay because that's yes, relinquishing control. It's not something we're very good at here, but definitely an exercise worth engaging in. There are great lessons to be learned there. It's good. So meditation has this wonderful way about, oh, thank you for the kind words, Orbits. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming and joining us here. We value having a community to practice with, so thank you. You know, really actively what we're doing is we're learning to simplify our mind, right? The brain is this amazing supercomputer that does a quadrillion things all at once, many of which we're not even aware of, right? We have more than 5 senses. We have our sense of time and balance and our, you know, internal metabolism and regulates our hormones. Like our brain is working overload all the time. And then we throw in this consciousness process, which is actually only a small function of percentage of how much of the brain is working at any given moment. Yet, it can be anxiety provoking. It's always looking for stimulus, right? It's constantly jumping from the next thing to the next thing. So by learning how to focus our conscious mind, by resting in awareness, by placing our concentration where we want it to be, we start realizing that we need less thoughts, right? What is anxiety? It's needless worry. It's worrying more than we need to. It's playing the tape over and over and over again, right? There's a wonderful meme I saw once. It said something along the lines of, I've got 99 problems and 85 of them are made up ones in my head, right? And that really captures something I think really true about the way my brain works, that I start anticipating. Perfect example. I got an email last Tuesday from my boss. Anthony, come see me. Short, to the point. What's going on here, right? There was a voicemail on my phone that was from him saying the same thing. That's a 10-minute walk to his office. The whole way there, I'm thinking over and over the different things. Did I do this wrong? Did we get a bad blah? This handful of litany, right? I did the whole 10 minutes from that seeing that email till I got to his office, thinking of the different awful things that could possibly be happening. I arrived. He wanted to show me something. He had gotten a mailing we had done. He was comparing it to something in his alma mater. He thought we had done a better job, blah, blah, blah. It was to compliment me, right? It wasn't like a promotion or anything else, but it was a nice conversation. He just wanted to talk through an example and compare and contrast with some really heavy compliments. I had imagined a lot of scenarios. That was not one of them, right? One of the things that meditation has taught me is just how much of my thoughts are useless. Right? It's garbage. It's a mind looking to grab onto things. So by setting aside some time every day to be still, to focus, to recognize thinking, to let it go, and to just return back to the breath, we start to develop a sense of just the right amount. Right? There's this beautiful word that I've learned in oryoki. An oryoki practice in the Zen meditation retreat is a formal meal taken in the Zen Dao. You eat in community and in silence. It's very sort of ritualized. And oryoki means just the right amount. This idea that we're going to move enough to eat, to clean our bowls, to wrap up our food afterwards, but not any more than we need to. Right? We're not going to look around. We're not going to mix our food up. We're not going to fidget. When it's time to take a bite, we're going to use our chopsticks or a spoon and take a bite and put the spoon back. Right? We're going to apply just the right amount of effort. Right? Nothing more, nothing less. Right? It's simple. And when I'm eating, I'm just eating. I'm not thinking about the work week. I'm not thinking about my family problems or my money issues, right? I'm just eating. Right? So meditation teaches us this practice. We have a space of creating sort of an emotional place of just the right amount, right? There's some beautiful quotes that I'll share through the course of the week, and a lot of them revolve around this idea of simplicity being just the right amount, right? Not too much, not too little, right? When we're talking, we want to communicate, we want to share everything and get a point across, but we don't want to repeat ourselves over and over, right? When we're meditating, we want to, if we encounter a problem, we have some emotional self-discovery to work with, right? We want to think about that. We want to address it. We want to work with it. But then when we're done, we want to release it, right, and move on. Most things only need like 2 or 3, maybe 4% of the amount of time that we dedicate to thinking about them. Right? Most things, if there are solutions, we can come up with relatively quickly and we can move on. Yet we do something very different mentally. We chew on these things over and over, and well, if he does this, and if we get into hypotheticals, and we play things sometimes over and over, and now I'm repeating myself, but meditation is this process of discovering what is just enough. Right? So through this whole 10 days that we do the Minimalism Challenge together, we're going to be working with this space of what is just enough, right? So one of my favorite exercises is emptying my wallet, right? And I'm amazed because I did this a year ago in the Minimalism Challenge, and I cleared my wallet out, and I was down to, I had a cell phone holder, and it had, I attached it to my cell phone. I had my driver's license, my debit card, and my credit card. And I didn't need it. I had 1 business card in there because I never gave out 20 business cards. I didn't need 20 business cards. And yeah, I found myself a year later back to the big old thick wallet that I can't sit on without being crooked because I've got every rewards card and every ID and every business card, and right? It's a whole lot of extra, right? So what happens when I place that same kind of concentration and awareness, that simplicity, and I strip away all the extra stuff? I get back down to that wallet that just has the 3 items that I actually use, right? So minimalism is very much meditation in practice. Minimalism is meditation actualized in our life, right? So we're going to look at that a couple of different ways through the course of the week. But I really think it starts with this mental space, this creating some calm, creating some quiet, right? Some stillness. And out of that really comes a very natural desire to try to straighten up, to clean things off, to reduce clutter, to get rid of all of the stuff that's wasteful, that causes extra energy, right? So I'm going to stop there because I'm going to talk a lot about this in the emails through the course of the week, and I really look forward to the dialogue that will happen in the discussion groups. And for anybody here who's a member in the any of the Zen Happiness discussion groups, the mindful parenting or the open discussion, I'd love, 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 love if you talk about the minimalism challenge over the course of the week there. Also going to try some hashtagging. We'll see how that works. I'm not the biggest social media junkie, but I think it'd be cool if we could share some thoughts and comments on Twitter and Instagram of the stuff that we're giving away in the cleaned up spaces, and any thoughts that we're having about the experiment over the course of the next 10 days. So I ran over, so it's 9:08 according to my clock. So anybody who has to run off, this is a great time to do so. I think we've basically wrapped up with the introduction. Anybody who wants to stay, I'll do a little bit of, I think there's a Y in it, Roxanne. Yep, there is Oryoki. Oryoki. And you'll see it come up as Oryoki bowls is what I'm seeing here in my Google search. Actually, Roxanne, I think I wrote about this in the, I'll forward you. I've got an email that I wrote about this around Passover. I think I talked about Oryoki and Denayu. Just enough word I learned in a Passover Seder that I thought captured some of the same idea. So thank you. Any other questions? You guys should, because you got this, you know how to reach me, right? So you can always email me. I'm always available to chat by email. But anybody who wants to stay, there's still 11 of us on the chat here. I'll do a little bit of a guided meditation now. Oh, goodness. That's funny. Oh. Okay, so what I'm going to encourage people to do here is attend to their posture. I'm just going to, I've burned through my hour-long incense. I'm just going to light a new stick for myself here. So we're going to do it's about a 15-minute guided meditation, and we're going to. Oh, thanks, Roxanne. I'm so glad you joined us. It's always a pleasure getting to spend some time with you. Roxanne has participated in a number of our groups. She's helped in the 21-Day Project. She helped us. We're trying to revamp the 21-Day Project into an 8-week series. She was very helpful in that. She's very active in our discussion group. So, bye, Roxanne. Nice seeing you. Okay. For our little guided meditation here, I'm going to remind you just to really attend to your posture. It's going to be about 15 minutes long. We're going to try to be physically still. We're going to commit to be still for this period. So I'd encourage you to really try to work with that and engage with that. So feet flat on the ground, legs 90 degrees, a little bit of a forward tilt to our hips to create that lower lumbar support, nice straight spine, open shoulders, tuck our chin in a little bit, breathe in and out through our nose, lightly closed eyes, soft gaze at the floor a few feet in front of us. All right. What we'll do through this guided meditation is we'll start with a body scan. We're just going to check in. We're going to see if there's any tightness, any tension. We're going to let go of that, settle into our practice here. Right? Then we're going to turn our attention to the breath, and really where we experience the breath, we're going to try to notice that. Then we're going to spend 2 or 3 minutes just sort of silently practicing Zazen, where we're going to count our breaths and let go of thoughts as they come up. So, any questions, go ahead and ask them now, because I'm going to be mostly eyes closed for the practice. Michael, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Okay. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. I'll ring the bell 3 times to get us started, and at the end of the practice, I'll ring it twice to conclude the period. We're going to start our meditation by doing a body scan. A body scan is an opportunity to just check in with our physical being, see if there's any tightness, any tension, anything we need to let go of, anything that'll help us settle into our practice. We're going to start our scan by bringing our attention to the top of our head. We're going to scan around our forehead, our temples, down behind our ears. Anywhere we find some tightness and tension, we're just going to invite those areas to relax, to soften, to be at ease. We're going to continue our body scan. We're going to go through our forehead, around our eyes, through our cheekbones. We're going to keep our mouth closed. We're going to breathe in and out through our nose in Zazen, but it doesn't mean we need to clench our jaw. Just invite your jaw to relax, to soften. It can be closed without being frozen. We're going to scan through our neck, look for any tightness in our neck and the base of our skull, down into our shoulders. If there's some tightness in your neck, it might be that your shoulders are scrunched up around your ears. We're just going to invite our shoulders to relax, to soften. As our chest broadens and our shoulders melt down, our chest opens up, our breathing becomes a little bit more relaxed, a little bit slower, a little bit deeper. We can continue our body scan, looking through our chest, wrapping around our rib cage, down through the core, through our torso, into our belly. Any tightness, any tense muscles, any anxiety that we're finding in our body, just going to relax, let it melt away, let it soften. Settle into our practice and be at ease. We're going to continue our scan down through our hips, into our thighs, down to our knees. Anywhere where there's a muscle, there can be tightness. And continue our scan down through our calf muscles to our ankles, around the arches of our feet, down all the way to the very tip of our toes. We're just going to invite our body to be still, to relax, to be at ease. Being our first body scan, we might want to start again at the top of our head and just do a quick check-in. You'll start to learn where the places that your body habitually holds tightness or tension. Just going to revisit those places. We're going to return every once in a while. Notice if there's tension or anxiety there. Let it go. We're going to turn our attention fully and completely to the experience of the breath right at the tip of our nose, where we first experience air rushing in, cool air rushing into our nose, warm, moist air rushing out. Like so much of our life, this experience is always available to us, yet we miss it because we're trapped up in worries of the future, reliving thoughts from the past, chattering incoherently to ourselves endlessly. We're going to let go of our thoughts and we're going to fully and completely experience the breath. Follow the journey of the breath in through our nose, down through the back of our throat. We're going to feel the expansion and contraction of our lungs. These massive, billowing, amazing muscles that expand and contract our rib cage and our lungs, sucking air in and out. For me, there's something really soothing about feeling my breath expand and contract my lungs. It's almost like sitting by the ocean and listening to the waves rush in and out. If our body is relaxed, if our posture is good, if our breathing is natural and deep, we'll feel the expansion of our diaphragm pushing our belly, and we can feel our breath all the way down in hara. Hara is H-A-R-A, it's Japanese for lower abdomen. Hara is the point 2 inches beneath our belly button. See if you can feel your breath all the way down into your stomach. Now that we've come in contact with hara, we're going to just keep our attention fixed right there. We're going to commit that for the next 3 or 4 minutes while we finish our meditation practice here. We're not going to let any distracting thoughts pull us away. We're going to breathe in, we're going to note 1. We exhale, we note 2. We breathe in, we note 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And when we get to the count of 10, we're simply going to let go of counting and go back to the count of 1. Breathing in, count 1. Exhale, count 2. It's just a very quiet, subtle note. We don't want to spend a lot of time talking to ourselves about the number or really yelling it inside our head. We're just going to very quietly note it. We're just going to place our attention fully and completely in the experience of the breath. You can do that in the tip of your nose, the back of your throat, the expansion of your lungs. The best place is all the way down in our lower abdomen and heart. We're going to practice silently for 2 or 3 minutes, breathing in, count 1, exhale, count 2, inhale, count 3. On that first meditation meeting that I went to, I drove up with my friend Tom, and we were chatting in the car. And Tom told me he thought that meditation was really kind of like, he used this wonderful metaphor. He talked about our minds being like Grand Central Station. So, there's all these commuters rushing about, going in every direction, and there's constantly a new train of thought rushing into the terminal, the conductor blowing the whistle, demanding our attention. And Tom thought that meditation was our chance to step back from the rush and hustle and bustle of the rush hour commute. Just stand on the waiting platform. Let the trains of thought come and go. And I love that metaphor, right? Our minds are busy. There's a lot of demanding thoughts, right? We don't have to jump on every thought. We're sitting and we're meditating. We've committed to our practice. We see thoughts develop. We don't judge ourselves or criticize ourselves, right? It's our brain's natural process to be thinking. We're just going to acknowledge the thoughts and we're going to let them go, right? We're going to return back to the experience of the breath. See our thoughts, let them go, return to the breath. Phoenix, Mandy, Michael, Robin, thank you so much, guys. This was wonderful. Thank you. This was great practicing with you tonight. I really appreciate it. I look forward to talking to all of you through the email and discussion group about the Minimalism Practice Challenge. This was great. I'll stick around for a minute here, just in case anybody's got any questions that they want to address before we get wrapped up. If not, you know where to find me, Zen Happiness Project at gmail.com, discussion group, all those good places. So, thank you, my friends. This was wonderful.